Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter and welcome to my top 5 weapon series from Monster Hunter Generations. And here is a list of my top 5 favorite switch axes. Note that in Monster Hunter Generations there are dozens of final form weapons that cover everything you can possibly want, from every element to slots, no slots, good sharpness, bad sharpness, you name it. So finding the best of the best is actually an impossible task. These are just the personal favorites that I used and I really enjoyed, so if you're having any trouble coming up with some endgame goals, maybe this can give you a hint. Go ahead and let me know down in comments which weapons that you found to be your favorite to give everybody else some more choices. Okay, let's jump in. Thanks, Obama. One of my favorite switch axes is the Barak Sedition. I love it. 180 attack, it's a little bit on the lower end scale compared to some of the other weapons in this list, but it has 20% affinity, 2 slots, which makes it really flexible. And remember, with switch axe you're often doing sidestepping or evading, so being able to maintain that white sharpness is actually really easy, so this is definitely one of my favorites for the game. Oh, and of course it's also power file. Oh yeah. Next up is another one of my favorites, which is a bludgeoning weapon called the Daedalus Axe. This is actually the level 8 final form of just the regular bone axe that you get at the very start of the game, or you can buy at the start of the game. 240 attack, decent enough green, and power file. If you do the math, the output of power on this weapon is just ridiculous. Another reason why the blunt weapons work really good for switch axe is that when you're using sword mode, which you're going to be in almost all the time thanks to the way that they've done the hunter arts, you don't have to worry about mind's eye. Your attacks will never bounce. So as long as your green sharpness, go ahead and put bludgeoning to get plus 15 more attack and use green weapons with high raw. Now in almost all the top 5s we're going after most of the Elder Dragons and Deviants, so I'm very happy to say that there is one of the flagship monsters which does get a place in my spot, which is the Mizutsune weapon called Parting Slice. This is a good weapon that goes side by side, I think, with the Seregios weapon as you play through high rank. 200 attack, 10% affinity, 28 water, 1 slot, and decent sharpness. This is a good weapon. It's definitely one that you want to go through for high rank, but you will find you get stuck when it starts to require hyper parts. But if you're going up against a monster that's weak to water, this is definitely a good weapon to have. Next up is the Deviant Nargacuga, the Silver Wind Axe. 190 attack, 15% affinity, and nice long white. This is also definitely a very good weapon to use. And more than anything, I really like the design of this weapon. It looks really cool when you whip it out and you're using it in sword mode, which again, you'll be doing almost all the time. I mean, it's also worth mentioning that Switch Axe has some of the best hunter arts in this entire game, so using a deviant weapon and being able to charge those hunter arts faster is actually a really big feature of some of these weapons. Now I'm betting most of you were probably pretty surprised I didn't start with the Hellblade weapon, but it does make my top 5, so this is the Hellblade Glavenus Axe. 200 attack, 5% affinity, and 30 blast with natural white. It's a little low for a Switch Axe, but for the overall power and the blast, I think it's awesome. Okay, those are my top 5, all of them are power file types, and here are 2 honorable mentions. First up is, because you guys know I love poison, is the Dread Queen Axe. 190 attack, 10% affinity, and 34 poison. Pretty good sharpness. You can almost get away with using this with blunt if you get into green, but it's a nice solid weapon that does poison monsters. Oh, and because many of you will want to know, the Chameleos Switch Axe is back in this game, but only goes to 170 attack. It's power file, 30 poison, and 3 slots, so it is a good weapon, but 170 attack I just don't feel is good enough to make my list. And last but not least is the Snow Baron Lagombi's Axe, which is 200 attack, 10% affinity, and 20 ice. The reason why this makes my list is it's one of the first deviants that you're going to unlock in the game, and even if you can't get this thing to its max level, it's actually really good to use in high rank, and because it's a deviant weapon you will charge your hunter arts faster, which you'll notice on Switch Axe is a pretty big deal actually. So Snow Baron Axe is one of the few deviant weapons I think you can use as you level it up, and is a fine choice for a Switch Axe user. I hope you guys enjoyed my list of Switch Axes. Again, every single one of these are a power file type. It's not to say that Elemento is not good, it's just with the hunter arts that we have now we can stay into sword mode pretty much the entire hunt, and sword mode does get a power boost with the power file type, so I definitely think, as I care about damage output to a certain extent, I think the power files are the winners in this game, unfortunately. I hope in the next game that they do something to make the elemental a little bit more viable, but if you see someone use an elemental, they're still really good, especially if they know where to hit. Let me know down in comments which Switch Axes you like and which other ones that you have found that are really good, and until next time, happy hunting.